The biggest challenge that I have confronted in coalition spaces are power dynamics in the context of identity. In all Latino spaces, work can be challenging because all manner of race, racism, gender identity, and sexual orientation, nationality, and class can sit like gigantic elephants in the room. In white-led spaces, I am usually the token, the lone voice in the desert, usually confronting the dark night of the soul as I clearly see how I am being used to legitimize and advance their agenda, and how, when I try to bring my voice and experience to the table, I am ignored or viewed like the crazy, angry Latina. I have walked out of these very many spaces, and I have found more freedom and a sense of belonging in spaces where a specific race, ethnicity, nationality, issue, geography is not the defining criteria. Yet all of those dimensions are not ignored and are actually front and center of the work. What do these spaces have in common? Strong values of reciprocity, solidarity, and a commitment to building deep relationships over the long haul. A clear political analysis and political vision, and a power-building strategy that seeks to transform power relations in our society. It is not necessarily issue-driven, though we do use issues to advance a power-building agenda. And then there is integrity, in that the coalition is in alignment with the organizational members on values, politics, and strategy. The upshot is that together, we are building a bigger, more expansive, collective we. And in the process, we are building more power together. Let me break it down. Identity. Who are you? Who am I? Who are we in relationship to each other? Identity is shaped by a ton of factors. I am not even going to list them here. I don't know them all. But I can tell you that there are external factors and then there are internal factors. And that the external is constantly shaping our sense of who we are individually and collectively. At the internal, individual level, we confront choices. We either go to sleep, ignore it, and do nothing about it, or we consciously use all of that to advance our own personal, professional interests and be part of that entire situation, or we awaken. That's what it means to be woke. We awaken and consciously adopt a liberatory identity. For me, to say that I am Afro-Latina immigrant woman from El Salvador is for me to recognize that these are political identities that arise in the context of power dynamics. For I am Afro-Latina because there is white, and I am woman because there is man, and I am immigrant because there is US born. And I choose these political identities consciously and with pride to signal to myself and to the world that I belong to these communities. I cannot and will not choose among them, for I am whole. And I understand that it is the powers that be who seek to divide me, even within myself. And though I cannot claim other political identities because I am not gay or Muslim or poor, I choose to be in solidarity with them, for I know what it means to be excluded and marginalized. Think about it. Think about it. All levels of government, all branches of government, big advocacy and service delivery nonprofits, philanthropy, corporations, the media, and so on and so forth, are not in our hands. And this vast and deep institutional structural landscape is constantly putting out laws, policies, regulations, narratives, products, jobs, and so on and so forth. It stands to reason then that my world and my community's world will continue to be controlled by this institutional structural landscape to our community's detriment. So I want us to be clear on the who we are. And why do I say this? Because I don't always trust that our sense of identity and belonging is expansive and liberatory enough to actually make a difference. I am talking here about being clear beyond our nationality, beyond our culture, food, music, beyond our own sense of race. And here most of all, because race is an invention from the powers that be to divide and conquer us. If we are not clear, we run the risk of consciously or unconsciously rejecting our African and indigenous ancestry, or use it to get ahead. We run the risk of being the token, the sellout, or the lone voice in the desert. So let us understand that our present and future are intimately linked to every single person in the margins. If we think that Latinos are the only ones that are confronting gaps in education, gaps in income and wealth, et cetera, just think back on some of the statistics that were put up there on the screen. And we are all in that same boat. So we have to understand that we are Black, for example, that we are indigenous. Like we think that here we are in the African communities over there. And that actually is not the case. We belong to all these communities. They are us and we are them in the project of transforming power relationships, which is so fundamentally at the very core of this reality that shapes, constrains our lives, and yields untold misery and injustice. Practically, we as Latinx are not enough to make it happen, to make a difference. So we must build alliances with like-minded and like-hearted leaders and organizations. And we must build a deep bench of leaders that are politically conscious and who have this expansive and liberatory identity, who will lead not only our organizations, but other organizations and institutions as well. Ultimately, from a deeper, truer, and transformational place, to make it happen for us means to make it happen for everybody on the margins, everybody who is exploited, everybody who is excluded. Our salvation, our future as Latinx is intricately linked with this bigger sense of we. I am Maria Elena Letona, and this is how I amplify.